Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn KERBECK. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Listen, babe, now, listen, babe, now. Listen, babe, now, listen, babe, now. Listen, babe, now, listen, babe, now.
Hello and welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is USA Global TV and Radio, where we proudly provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. Happy New Year to you across the world. I know some places like New Zealand, they've already welcomed in the new year. So whatever it is you have planned, I hope that it's safe and that you are happy and filled with peace. I'm Dr. Jacalyn KERBECK, and our show today is all about judgment. So for those of you who are not aware, I've written this book, Holy But Harmful, The Silent Sin of Judgment. And I wrote the book because I was witnessing judgment in so many ways. And also judgment is part of what we do when we're not actually listening to someone. So I teach people how to be present and how to listen without interruption, without problem solving, without stage hogging, and without judgment. So let's get the show started. Today, we have a multi-award winning author who is no stranger to judgment. And I applaud her for being here today, because many of us think we are not judging. Many of us think that we are innocent and it is everyone else. And my guest today is going to share some of her experiences through the written word and through experiences that she has actually encountered herself. So I'll give a little bit more of a background once we welcome her to the show. She goes professionally by S.E., that's S as in Sam, E as in Evans, and her name is Samantha, but she also is known as Sam on social media, and her last name is Tschritter, and I hope I said that right. So let's welcome Samantha Evans Tschritter to the program. Samantha, come on out. Welcome. Oh, we can hear you. Sorry, we couldn't hear you, but go ahead. Start again. We can hear you now.
Okay, so yeah, you got my name right, Samantha Evans Tschritter. S.E. Tschritter is what's on the bottom of a lot of my books, but yeah, we here just us, just me and you and the whole world. I'll just be Sam casually. It's fine.
All right, Sam, it's a pleasure to meet you. And so you are now in the South, in the US of A, and you come from Chicagoland, I believe. And so now it's the holiday season, and so you're traveling. So thank you for taking the time to be here today. And you've also won a number of awards, and we're going to get to that. Let's talk a little bit about why it is when you could pick any place to be, you signed up for a show about judgment.
Well, my book, The Prodigal Son, Crackhead to Jesus Freak, launches tomorrow, January 1st. And it is a book that I wrote about my late husband's crack addiction and alcohol addiction. And in order to write the book, I actually had to interview him and ask him his questions and write his story from his point of view. So I had to go very much into his head. You know, we talk with judgment, we talk about like, you don't know what it's like to be in her shoes, or you don't see the cards she's holding. I actually had to hold his cards and put myself in his shoes to write this book. And I have like this copy, so I might actually read a couple things from the book. but I experienced judgment as the spouse of an addict, and I judged other people even in the midst of that, because there was one situation where I ended up visiting my husband in jail, and I was judging other visitors in the waiting room. And so when I saw this show about judgment, and it was like great timing with the book release, I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is perfect. So that's why I chose to meet with you, Jacalyn, and I appreciate it.
I really appreciate it too. Thank you so much. And it's interesting. I don't like to speak ill of the dead, but I also was married to someone who had problems with alcohol and drugs. So it's interesting that we're here today. The universe brings us together. So in the book that I wrote, Holy But Harmful, I basically was judged for the way that I look, and also because I was told that God didn't know me or love me because I had stopped going to church after my mother died. So I decided, instead of judging back, to just do some research and to really look into it and interview pastors. And I'm a peace ambassador, interview peace ambassadors. And so what came out of this for me was that many times we say things meaning well. We're trying to encourage something or get people to see something from a different perspective. And so we put our spin on it. And basically, it's just riddled with judgment. And so I'm wondering, what are your thoughts about the fact that you have this book coming out? You're telling the tell-all, and so maybe there are people out there judging just because you've written the book. What are your thoughts about that?
I'm expecting that. I am very spiritual. I'm a hardcore Christian, and I use profanity in the book. And I have not included profanity in anything else I've written. And I feel like good writing can be written without profanity, but it was his real story. We're talking about crack addiction and alcoholism. And my audience is people who've been wounded by the church and who've walked away because they feel like the church is hypocritical. And so for them, I wanted them to see two Christians who are battling sin vulnerably and authentically, and show the whole transformation from like what sin does, and then inviting God into that space to know that they are worthy of love. And the whole journey for Clint was that he didn't feel lovable, and that led to a lot of his addiction struggles. And so at the end of the book, when you finally see him realizing like God loves me, it changes the whole thing. And so, but I am expecting a lot of judgment and criticism from conservative Christians who don't want to see those words in print. I'm scared of that. I'm scared of different scenes in the book because there is some domestic violence in there. There were a few nights where he was drunk and raging drunk. And so there are physical fights, and there's a police phone call, and I called the police on my husband and had to have him arrested and watched him being handcuffed. And so there's a lot of opportunity in this book for people to judge me as the author, or judge my late husband Clint and his life. Also, he was a pastor, so that he wasn't a pastor for the domestic violence part of it, but he was a pastor later, and then he relapsed. And so that there are so many opportunities for people to judge my family. And I just felt like God, I don't know, like God would want us to be vulnerable and open and honest about the struggles, because I think it's really important for people who are struggling in their own addiction or their own sin or their own shame to see that there are people like them who are battling those same demons. And so for their sake, any judgment I receive about this book is going to be worth it, like to help other people heal.
Thank you so much for your transparency. And by the way, it's by no accident that we're here together on the last day of the year when people this evening, if they haven't already celebrated into 2026, they're going to be making commitments to change their behavior, to give up this and give up that. So thank you again for being here and sharing your story and being so vulnerable. And what I heard you say was the word fear. I think I heard that twice. And so we can either come from a place of love or a place of fear. So I imagine that when you're writing this and you're getting the story out there, that you're coming from a place of love. But yet, what's still coming up for you is that fear of being judged, because we know Mel Robbins is someone who really inspires me, and she has the let them theory. Let people think what they're going to think. Let them say what they're going to say. We still have to come forward and share our story. And so you're weighing the love and the fear. So it sounds like love won.
I love one. It's out there for people. Like, people can pre-order the ebook on Amazon right now, or pre-order the book itself on Walmart or Barnes and Noble. You could go right now and click purchase for The Prodigal Son on Walmart or Barnes and Noble. So Love One, it is available for the whole wide world. But a few weeks ago, before I uploaded the manuscripts and the PDF, I was talking to my typesetter and I was like, what if we just leave it on your computer? What if we don't ever publish this book and we just leave it right there and no one needs to know? And that didn't go over well. So.
Well, it sounds like when there's something inside of us that we want to get out, some kind of message, we've got to keep going forward, because if we don't, we're really silencing our own voice. And many people out there are doing that. There are people who are living in situations of domestic violence right now, and they're living in fear every day for their life. So I feel so grateful to be meeting you in this way and learning how brave you are and to get your story out there. So thank you for that. And you mentioned you have the book with you showed us. And so I'd love to have you read a passage, and then let's have a conversation about something that really inspires you to speak from your heart right now.
All right. Well, I have a few passages marked. Would you like to hear a story about me judging someone else, me being judged, or pastors setting aside their judgment? You get to pick.
Let's have the second one.
The second one of me being judged?
Yes.
Okay. When I lived in a small town, I wrote at Hardee's all the time because it was kind of funny, but that was one of the only restaurants that had a good setup for me to write. And so I would go to Hardee's to write. So that's kind of the setting for this scene. Less than a week after the accident at Hardee's, when I walked past a table where two elderly couples sat, their conversation abruptly ceased. Each of their silver-haired heads jerked up like a choreographed cue from a musical. They fixated their gazes at different places in the room. One woman actually looked at the corner of the ceiling. Disgusted, I stopped and stared at them. I stood there long enough to warn them I knew who they were talking about, long enough to make them uncomfortable and ashamed, long enough to make them feel like idiots for staring at the corner of the ceiling. I thought about saying, "You should be ashamed of yourselves," but I didn't need to. I walked away without a word, humiliated by strangers. I did not recognize those couples.
Wow. Okay. So let's get this scene. You're at Hardee's, which, by the way, I haven't heard of Hardee's in so many years. It brings a smile to my face.
So glad.
So you're there and you see these two people, and in your mind, can you share with us, who do you think they were talking about, or what they were thinking in their mind or saying to each other?
It was two couples. It was 4 people, and they were just people from our community who knew who Pastor Clint was. So the little backstory, the beginning of the book starts with Clint being arrested for a drunk driving accident. He was a pastor who relapsed into alcohol, got in a drunk driving accident. And I got a call from police at 1:30 in the morning, "Miss Evans, there's been an accident." And then 6 hours later, I got a second phone call. "Miss Evans, we found something on the CAT scan. You need to come in right away." So when they scanned for internal bleeding and broken bones because of the drunk driving accident, they actually found stage 4 cancer. And my life at that moment just felt like Chernobyl, right? Like this it exploded. And so that was obviously, like, it was on the news at that time, and everyone in our small town was talking about it. So I didn't know those people. I didn't know those two couples. I didn't recognize them. But for whatever reason, they knew exactly who my husband was, and they recognized me. And I don't know how they knew who I was, but they knew. They were talking about his drunk driving accident. I have no doubt in my mind. And when they saw me walk past, they stopped talking because they knew who I was, even though I've said, I didn't recognize them at all. So that was just crazy to me, that these strangers were talking about me right there with me in the room. And that actually happened more than once.
I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. And I'm really sorry about what happened with your husband and that diagnosis. I mean, all of that. And I think that leads me to the next statement that I'm going to make is we think we know someone because we have a piece of information, maybe that we saw or heard on the news, or it was passed down through numerous people, but we have no idea what the person involved or the persons involved are actually feeling. And we forget that people are humans. We are humans before we are anything else. And so I really encourage each and every one of us to find a place of love and compassion, as opposed to being in a place of hatred and gossip, because we could be that person one day. We could be the one who is standing before God and having to face whatever it is that we're doing at the time. So gossiping and talking about you like that had to feel like a very low moment, especially when you don't even know these people and they have no idea what you as a person, as a human, stand for or how you really feel.
Right. And let me tell you, one of the most heroic people in my story is a 15-year-old, well, he was 15 at the time, a 15-year-old boy named Josh. He worked at Hardee's, and I actually lost weight eating there because I would order the Frisco sandwich, with all the carbs, and he would say, lettuce wrap and salad coming right up. And so I would order a low carb combo, and that's what he gave me. So I called Josh my conscience, and we had a joke about that. But this 15-year-old boy helped me lose weight while I was working there. And that morning that I came back from the hospital after the potential cancer diagnosis, which did end up being stage 4 cancer, but we didn't know for sure at the time. I walked through the doors, and this teenage boy was like, "Wow, Sam, you look terrible." And I was like, "Thank you, Josh. You have a way with words." And he blushed and he said, "No, I'm sorry." And I said, "My husband was arrested for drunk driving last night, and he might have cancer." And that 15-year-old boy looked at me and he said, "My dad's been in jail." And he took his wallet out of his back pocket and he paid for my meal. And I'm going to cry, just even thinking about it. There was no judgment from him at all. There was no condemnation. There was only understanding and sympathy and empathy and service. Let me serve you. Let me help you. Let me do what I can for you. And that boy, he took, like I said, he took his wallet out of his pocket and he paid for my meal. And we had this whole joke about do you want a side salad or fries? And he asked me that question, and I couldn't decide if I wanted to be healthy or eat the carbs. And so when I got home and I unpacked my lunch, he had given me the Frisco sandwich and a salad and fries. And I just started bawling right then and there. And that story is in the book too, but Josh was my hero that day.
What a beautiful story. Thank you, Josh. And thank you for sharing that about Josh. It reminds me, the last day I was with my great niece and my great nephew, 4 and soon to be 2. And you see that childlike wonder and that curiosity, and everything is just pure and innocent and fun. And so you're sharing that Josh at his age of 15, and he didn't have that judgment. I don't know when it starts. I don't know exactly what happens when all of a sudden we think we're judge and jury of everyone. And we don't realize how painful that is. We don't realize that. I did some research that one comment that you make to someone that's hurtful, they can forget it and forgive you, but they're going to remember that you said it for up to 20 years. I don't know if it was Harvard or one of the Ivy Leagues, they did research. So what we're saying and putting out into the universe, even what we're thinking, that can have such an impact on someone. And so I would just caution all of us as we get an opportunity to turn the page on a new year to think about how we're coming across, and think about with Sam, the way you were feeling that day in the restaurant. I'm sure you don't ever want to feel that way again.
Absolutely not. And yeah, I mean, especially strangers. I think that was the thing that surprised me the most, was that it was strangers who didn't know my story. I feel like I had the most understanding from people who knew me best. But then other people would look in on my life and say, oh, she's the pastor's wife, and look at them, you know, shame, shame, shame. And it was awful.
Yeah. And again, it's part of your journey. It's part of what brought you here today, where you are inspiring people all over the world. We talked a little bit backstage, just briefly, about the Bible. And so I know there's a passage or two that we're going to be chatting about. So when I shared with you and the world at the beginning, when I wrote this book, Holy But Harmful, and How I've Been Judged for Not Going to Church, I saw your facial expression when I said that I was told God doesn't know me and doesn't love me. And so what are your thoughts for people who are, they could be very religious or they're not religious, but the fact that God loves all of us, even as we sin?
I mean, that's why he came, right? Jesus was judged by religious people for hanging out with sinners and tax collectors and prostitutes. But those are the people who Jesus wanted to be with, because they were the most welcoming of him, which is crazy to me that the religious people were the ones who were condemning him, the ones who eventually put him on the cross as well. But the sinners are the ones that he spent his time with. Like, isn't that, it's kind of crazy to me. And I despise when people use the Bible as a weapon. And Romans 1 is one of those passages where a lot of people are like, oh, don't do this, don't do this. You know, the Bible, you know, God hates this sin. God despises this sin. But backed up to Romans 1, where we're talking about this sin being despised, and there's a whole list of things that are just abominable, right? But right after that is Romans 2. And the entirety of Romans 2 talks about don't judge other people. Like, no, God doesn't appreciate when we sin or when we do these things. And also, it is not your place to judge. It is not your right to judge. And Romans 2 says, at whatever point you judge another, you are condemning yourself. And it's crazy to me that we read that first part without taking that other part into consideration, that chapter 2. And realizing that it is not our place to judge other people for their sins. When I was writing the book, there's a story in the Bible about the prodigal son, right? Which is a little bit, you know, where the title came from. My late husband had prodigal son tattooed to his forearms. So he's the prodigal's son, prodigal being God. But in that story, everyone focuses on the son who squanders the wealth and then he runs back to his father. The elder son is so judgmental, and he's like, man, like, he wasted his money. He doesn't deserve to come back. There's a party being thrown for him. We don't even know if that elder son goes into the party. I am or was the elder son. Like, that is my struggle. Like, you don't deserve this. Or before I understood Clint's heart about addiction and what he was going through, I would say things like, or just think things, right? Like, oh, if she just stopped wasting her money on drugs and, you know, put that toward a college education, or if she just, you know, stopped doing drugs and she took better care of her kids, blah, blah, blah. And writing that story from his perspective changed my entire understanding of addiction and what people are going through. There's actually a scene in there that I wrote about being like a drowning scene, feeling like you are drowning, and then comparing that to addiction and what that feels like. And it's pretty intense when you understand that the addict loses their choices. They don't, it's not just like, oh, we're choosing to do drugs. Like the drugs start to think for them. The drugs start to make decisions for them. And the drugs and the person are two different entities. But I feel like the addict is chained to the addiction, if that makes sense.
It absolutely does. And I thank you for sharing that, because first of all, when you were talking about Romans 1, Romans 2, it brings up something that I teach people, which is, before we speak, is it kind? Is it necessary? And is it true? And the truth part is what is coming up for me as an analogy, because we can take a situation and we only share or act on part of it. And the other part, we just, oh, that doesn't apply to me. I'm not going to actually take that in. And so with what you shared, we can easily sit and judge other people, but at the same time, we don't realize what we're actually doing to ourselves. And so putting yourself in someone else's shoes and imagining what it must be like, that takes real work. And that's somebody who has high emotional intelligence, in my opinion. That's you. And so I really honor you for that, because people are so quick to just dismiss and label, oh, he's this, she's that. Oh, talking about people instead of saying, wait a minute, that's a human being. That's a person. Let's try to understand, what is that person going through? Let's show some compassion and empathy, and let's try to assist, at least by not judging the person and telling our version of the truth.
I mean, so my story about when I judged someone else is when, 2 days after the accident, I was allowed to go to the jail and visit my late husband in jail. And, well, he wasn't my late husband at the time. I hope people understand that. But I mean, imagine a rom-com scene with a woman who is just totally out of her element. So I walked in dressed nicely and just prepared to treat people respectfully and be present. And there was this couple sitting in the chair, and like the woman, I was judging the woman for how she looked, because her bra was too tight and she had like rolls. And I was thinking such mean things about this woman. And then the man had like a flannel and his beard was all over the place. And I was like, oh my gosh, you guys look so messy. You're like, I was judging them by their appearance. I was judging these people. And I was stopped halfway through my judgments. And I had this awful realization that we are in the same place for the same reason at the same time. We are both visiting someone that we love in jail. And that thought changed me, possibly forever, because I was no longer like on the outside looking in at these people, these dirty people, right? I was in the same dirty situation myself. And like I said, life-changing and life-altering.
That is so profound. And I really appreciate the fact that you shared that, because sometimes we tell ourselves a story. Oh, even though I'm here, I'm not like we talk to ourselves and we rationalize things. But the fact that you had that, I'm going to say, epiphany at that moment.
Yes.
So when you say that it probably changed you forever, what do you mean by that?
It knocked my pride down. It knocked me off my high horse. It humbled me. I mean, however you want to say that, it put me on the same level as the people I was in the room with, the same level as the people I was judging. They are no different than me. They are no worse than me. I am no better than those two people sitting there. And all of a sudden we were seeing life from the same angle rather than me looking down on them.
And so it kind of made you in some way connected. Did you have a conversation with them at all?
Not much of one. It was just like, hey, who are you here to visit? Oh, I'm here to see my nephew. So it was the man who was visiting his nephew, and then the woman was his girlfriend, I think. And she didn't go into the room. And then I said, yeah, I'm here visiting my husband. Which is not a statement I ever wanted to say. I am here visiting my husband in jail, like that. Other people in the world have to say that, and it's horrible. It's really hard to be in that space. There's so much shame connected to that. But the man was so casual about, like, who are you here to see? My husband, and it was just like, he was so kind and gentle, and there was no judgment on his face at all because he was in the same place. So I think go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was going to say, I can imagine that as a little girl with curiosity and childlike wonder, when you were growing up, you never imagined that you would be there that day doing what you were doing. You couldn't have fathomed that.
No, absolutely not. There's no way. I mean, that first day when I had to go to the hospital, it was a Sunday morning. So my late husband was supposed to be preaching that morning, and instead he was in the hospital, and then they were going to be arresting him from the hospital and taking him to jail. And when I had to call someone to watch the kids, I called my friend Erin immediately. She had dealt with a heroin addiction in her past and overcome it. And people who've been in it don't judge the same way other people do. So I called Erin and I said, Clint was in an accident. I think alcohol was involved. I have to go to the hospital. She said, bring the kids. And that was the phone call. That was it. And people who are there, they get it. They get how hard it is. And I think that's the struggle for a lot of people who look down on other people, or who are looking, I call it looking with a telescope, looking in on someone with a type telescope and micromanaging through a type telescope, because you can't see it, and you don't know what you don't know, but you think you know. And so you make these judgments about people based on what you think you know, but there's so many pieces missing in those situations.
Absolutely. And I think it also comes back to having a heart filled with love as opposed to fear. Because I think that's sometimes why people judge and why people gossip, because they're afraid of what they don't know, but they don't want to take the time to ask the question in a respectful way. They'd rather just talk behind your back. And so that's kind of a fun thing to do, right? Stir the pot, create some drama. Oh, it's New Year's Eve tonight. Who can we talk about? Right. So
make us feel better about ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And so I want to also talk about your writing, because from what I understand, you've made contributions to more than 40 books. Is that true?
It is. A lot of those were books that I would write like a chapter of. So 19 of those books were testimonies where I would interview someone and then write his or her story from first person. And actually that helped with with writing The Prodigal Son, because I interviewed multiple addicts and they told me what it was like to struggle with their addiction. So even interviewing them helped me interview my late husband later. And I was able to ask him more detailed questions that kind of correlated to things I'd learned over the years. So that's where a lot of those came into play. And I've written some devotionals, and I wrote a book called Love Letters to Miscarriage Moms that won a Golden Scroll Award for Christian Book of the Year in 2023. Basically, when I write, no matter what it is, my goal is for people to realize that they're not alone, and that the things that they're struggling with are things that other people struggle with. Not everyone has the gift to articulate the hard things, but I do. And, as an author, you probably understand that you have a gift of seeing the world a certain way and being able to put it into words that other people struggle to articulate themselves.
Absolutely. It's so true. And, Sam, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis in 1991, and I never thought that anyone else in the world had this disease.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended up that there's an entire community of people. And that's how I ended up starting my radio show and my television show 4 years ago, was to give people a place to come and share their stories. So I think in our mind, we think we are alone. And the story that you shared, there are probably countless other people who have been in that situation, but yet they haven't had the I don't know what the word is because I don't want to be judgmental, but they haven't come forward yet with their story. So what would you say to someone who is out there right now, whatever their story is, and they're living in shame and they're living in fear and they feel like they're the only ones?
I would say you are not alone. You are worthy of love. I don't know necessarily that people have to share their story in order to, well, I know for sure people don't have to share their story in order to be loved by God. But I think fear, like you said, fear keeps us from sharing our stories. And I've found so much validation from people when I am vulnerable and I share myself, like you're saying I was also in situations that are similar. And so we don't know what other people are going through until we open up and share a little bit ourselves. And it's like stepping into a pool, like getting your toes wet and then getting deeper and deeper. But as we practice sharing little pieces of ourselves, we will find other people who have been in those same situations that we have been in. And it's less lonely when we do that. So if you're able to share, if you're brave enough to share, go ahead, because you're going to find the people in your life who know more than you realize and understand what you're going through more than you realize, and maybe have some wisdom to share with you. And if you are steeped in shame and you're not brave enough to share your story, or maybe just not ready, you're still loved and you're worthy of love. And nothing you can ever do will make God love you less.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you for that. And so I want to wrap up with this, that when someone feels comfortable coming forward with their story, as you have, you are anticipating judgments. You are putting it out to the world. Yes, you may judge me for writing this book. So what would you share with people about how to anticipate and possibly deal with being judged?
My story is not their story, and they don't know what I'm going through. So the people who are going to judge me are the ones that don't understand. And there's actually a scene in the book, I didn't mark it, so I don't want to spend any time looking for it, but Clint talked about, just let them judge you, let them judge, because it's people with small minds, and you challenge their thinking. You don't fit in their box, and that scares them. And so his response to that was, let them judge you. Like, what does it matter? Their opinion doesn't matter. If they're judging you, then they don't understand anyway.
Beautifully said. Sam, tell us a little bit about your book that's being launched and how people can get it and who the intended audience is.
I mean, the intended audience is anyone who has battled shame or addiction or is a family member of addiction. The secondary audience would just be anyone who wants to understand addiction or understand what judgment does to someone who is an addict. There's my link tree. So you can have all the links are right there. And then here's the book. It's available right now, like I said, on Amazon. The ebook is available, and it's on Walmart.com and BarnesandNoble.com. Tomorrow, the paperback version will be available on Amazon as well. And it's written from my point of view and Clint's point of view. So we are going through this story of his addiction and his cancer diagnosis and dealing with all these judgments from all these other people. And we find ourselves and we find the message that God has for us in the middle of that. And so it's my transformation as the elder brother in the prodigal son story, and it's his transformation as the prodigal son, learning how to accept grace for himself despite his debilitating shame.
I love the fact that you have this dual perspective, and I know you're coming back. I think you're going to be on the corner bookstore with Retta Laughlin, who is one of my dear friends and our team member. So we'll look forward to having you back for that show as well as another one, I think. And I wish you all the best. And I'm so happy that you came here today and that I'm able to close out the year of this show with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Enjoy the rest of your holiday, and we'll see you back here again soon.
Bye, everyone. Good luck.
Bye. Well, I hope that you took away a lot from that discussion, that conversation, because I know for me, it is judgment is something that we all can do better at. I really believe. And before we speak, I'm just going to repeat the three questions. Before we speak, is it kind? Is it necessary? And is it true? And when we look at is it true, are we manipulating the story? Are we telling the entire story? Or are we just telling part of it that really resonates with us? One of my key focuses this year as a peace ambassador is to basically bring awareness as to what we're posting on social media. And so I just came through training, which was basically fake news, being aware of what's fake and what's actually real. So think about your own life. Think about what Sam shared with us. How much of what we are thinking and what we are saying is actually the truth, and how much are we making up because we want to be the center of attention by starting gossip? Is gossip sexy? I don't think so. Listen, I've gossiped in my life. I'm not saying I haven't, but I'm making every step this minute on to not gossip and to not put things out into the world that are not kind, that are not necessary, and that are definitely true from the full perspective, not just how we want people to see us and what really resonates with us, whether it's true or not. So think about that. Think about who you're judging. Think about how you felt when you were judged. And maybe when you are about to say something, pause and think, is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it true? And when you're being judged, I like to think of it like this. When you come back at the person with something, you're actually what I call stepping into the fire. And now you're coming back with something, and then they're coming back at you, and it goes back and forth and back and forth. I choose not to step into the fire. I just choose to set a boundary and say, you know what? I'm going to give them grace, just like I hope someone will give me grace if I start to judge. So with that in mind, I wish you a very happy 2026. I thank all of you who have been here with us broadcasting. We are closing out our third official year. We started January 15th, 2022. So we'll be celebrating our fourth anniversary. And if you'd like to be a guest, go over to our website. It's usaglobaltv.com, and you can book your session there. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Please go and do buy Sam's book. You have all the information in the show notes. All right, we're off for now, and we'll be back shortly. Thank you.
Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? In a world quick to judge, one book dares to reveal the hidden cost of silence. Discover holy but harmful, The Silent Sin of Judgment, How Hidden Judgments Destroy Relationships and Damage Lives by Dr. Jacalyn KERBECK. The Amazon #1 bestseller that's transforming the way we understand ourselves and the way we see others. Pick up the companion workbook to uncover your own hidden judgments and learn how to break free from them. Available now on Amazon and at fine bookstores worldwide.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to tracycramperkins.com. Tracy Cram Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dies. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn KERBECK. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.